Okay, so this will be the last video. For essay, you have a choice. All right, you have a choice between Stalin, Hitler, Stalin, and Chapter One, the League of Nations, or Treaty of Versailles. So for Stalin, okay, is very simple. The key things you need to know for the rise of Stalin is: did he rise to power because he's lucky? Okay, external circumstances, or did he rise to power because of his own abilities? In other words, his manipulation and his skill. Yes, so which one is it? So for each of the main headings, there's some sub points that you can use as your details. All right. So if you don't have time, right, I suggest that you learn the simple one. So the first simple one is the non-disclosure of Lenin's testament. A testament is just a will of what will happen to the leadership after Lenin dies or passes away, right? So in his testament, he wanted Stalin to be removed. This is the main point. He wanted Stalin to be removed from his position as Secretary General. All right. So this key line is important. Another key line is that not only did he want Stalin to be removed, but he also criticized many of his successors. So this wouldn't sound great, right? If it's read out to the public, then they would think lowly. They would think that Lenin did not actually support these people as well as Stalin. So they all agreed that you don't read out the testament, don't make it public, so that you can retain, Stalin can retain his position, and you can deal with the bigger threat, which is Trotsky. All right. So because it wasn't read out, he can keep his Secretary General powers, and this position allow him to put supporters into power. This position also allow him to have a Troika alliance with Kamenev and Zinoviev, so he can get rid of his main rival first, Trotsky. With the main rival gone, then he's able to rise to power. So it's actually quite simple. Tell me about the testament. What is it? It criticized leading successors. It suggested Stalin be removed as Secretary General. As a result, many of the successors didn't want it to be made public, right? Because they felt Trotsky is a bigger threat. As such, when you explain, tell me that this led to him keeping his position as Secretary General, which he can use to put his supporters in power. And by doing so, he can form strong alliances, get rid of rivals, and this will clear the way for him to rise to power. All right. So, the second point for external circumstances, right? That means luck, in other words, was that Trotsky himself was very unpopular in politics, in the party itself, right? Trotsky was very unpopular. Why? Very simple. He's head of the Red Army, so he has a lot of influence. He has a lot of power because whoever has power of the army controls a lot of the party. Okay, he was seen as a hero who led the Russian Civil War to victory in the Russian Civil War. Number two, unpopular due to his attitude because he's outspoken and he often criticized Lenin's economic policies. Basically, he often criticized the party and the leadership, and this was seen as an act of disloyalty to Lenin himself. And number three, his beliefs. All right, the main thing you must know is this: he believed in permanent revolution, right, which is inside revolution all over the world. Right, the alternative is socialism in one country, which was what Stalin said. This means we focus on the Soviet Union first. So two opposing ideas. Of course, Stalin managed to get people towards his idea instead, because Russia had just finished World War One. They didn't want to have a revolution all over the world. They wanted to build their own country first. Alright, so three things. If you only can write two, then write two. Okay? So because of this unpopularity of Trotsky, the main rival of Stalin, it led to formation of alliances that desired to remove him from power. Alright, one of it was the Troika alliance, Kamenev, Zinoviev, and Stalin himself. So they did many things, kick out his supporters, undermine his position, and hence with him gone, it was easier for Stalin to rise to power. Okay, so that's for the two factors regarding his luck or external circumstance. Now, when you talk about his manipulation, its skill, okay, first reason was he purposely led people to believe that he is close to Lenin. This is one of his skills. How did he do this? He organized the funeral, make it a grand affair, gave a big speech, make himself chief mourner, turns turns the name of Petrograd into Leningrad, and lastly, give Trotsky the wrong date so that he wouldn't attend. So how do you explain this? Because he didn't attend, he is seen as disloyal, arrogant, and discredited. Alright, so it's easy to go against Trotsky again. Alright, and because he organized the funeral and he cried in front of the Russian people have the impression that Stalin is the natural successor to Lenin, and so this is what enabled him to rise to power easily. Okay, so I just go through one more. Control over party organizations, very simple. He controlled the party because he was Secretary General of the party. Alright, so just write what this means. This means he can appoint and reassign members, putting members his supporters into power and controlling the secret police, okay, which was very powerful at that time. So as such, he can replace the allies of his opponents and put his own allies into power. He can discredit Trotsky's support base, destroy his reputation, and discredit his ideas, right, leading to his eventual resignation and assassination in Mexico. And with Trotsky gone, he can rise to power easily. Okay, so the last point is this ideological division exploitation. So this one you must write about the moderates. Okay, moderates who followed Lenin's leadership and ideology closely, and the radicals who wanted to challenge the system. So Stalin took advantage, aligning himself with different groups at different times to gain an upper hand. So first aligning himself with the moderates to expel Trotsky, right? Then after that he did this by working with Kamenev and Zinoviev in the Troika alliance. Step number 2, he backstabbed Kamenev and Zinoviev by forming alliance with the moderates, right? Who are the moderates? Basically the moderates, yes, to get rid of Kamenev and Zinoviev. Then he switched back again, right, to win support of the radicals, to remove Bukharin and Roykov, the two moderates who opposed Stalin. Alright, so you can read this yourself. It's quite Game of Thrones over here, right? Aligning himself with different groups at different times in order to gain the upper hand. So the details are all inside here, right? Working with Kamenev and Zinoviev to get rid of Trotsky, then breaking this alliance, right, by working with breaking this alliance by working with the moderates to get rid of Kamenev and Zinoviev. Okay, finally switch support over to the radicals to remove the moderates Bukharin and Roykov, and finally all of them are gone. Now you have complete control over Russia, right? So with all your opponents discredited and removed, then you can become the supreme power of the Soviet Union. Alright, so this is the video on rise of Stalin.